Your boy Forever Cabron coming in to let you know to check out What's Hood with me, the Compa FC, where you can roll one up with a real one. We chop it up about everything, dog. Politics, hood shit, music, movies, acción, you name it, la causa, el movimiento. We want to tackle things about looking at your culture differently and all that good shit. So if you want to look into that, if you want to find some self-love and self-worth, dog, check out a compa. Roll one up with a homie, dog. Every Tuesday and Thursday, right here on Binge on this. Check a homie out, dog. Stay up late.
All right. Welcome to Sam of All Trades, a Binge on This show. Binge on This, where you can find other shows like Roll 420, the tabletop RPG show featuring games like Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu. Reading Ronin, where tales and fables are read for your listening pleasure. What's Hood with Forever Cabron, where we take an introspective dive into the Latin culture. Happy News with Perry Kurtz, our favorite wild grandpa who is back from a planetary exile. And This, That, and the Other, our podcast show with Bryan and yours truly. Today we are joined by the great guest, John Goodwin, who is a special effects artist and actor. Welcome, John. How are you today?
Thank you very much. I've never done a podcast before. I want you to know that. I was always kind of afraid of that because it's like invasion of the body snatchers or something. When you say,
one would think with the word podcast, but just think of it as the radio's grandson.
Okay, I like that. Radio I love.
So beginning with all of that, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into becoming a practical effects artist.
Well, I'll tell you, I finished high school like we all did, and then I started college at Butler University in Indianapolis, and it was the drama school there that I wanted, and did a couple of years there, and it was getting the leads in some of the productions there. I figured, no more grapes on that vine. So, I wanted to get into movies and movie technology too. And I was just taken with movies. I always had been. So I transferred to USC, and I didn't know at the time that when you transfer, you're not automatically accepted into the cinema department. So I followed the head of the cinema department around for about 2 weeks with my films under my arm and the whole thing. And I finally got in. But
so you pushed your way in.
Yeah, push. Well, you know what it was they did that to everybody. Mm-hmm. They wanted to see that you really wanted it, and they wanted to know you had a little bit of push. I think that's what it was all about.
Like a little rite of passage.
Yeah, because the guy, Bernie, he stopped after a while and kind of went into his office, and the act stopped, and I talk with my hands. I'm Italian. You can't see that on this.
Not on a podcast, no.
But they just wanted to know that it was really serious. And then so I got Bill Tuttletouch makeup. He was Academy Award winner before they even had an Oscar for makeup. He was head of makeup department at NGM, and he won an Oscar for the Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe. And I knew his name, and I was the guy that was always putting stuff on their face and trying to be older, and which was a big mistake I see now. But so I took his course on Saturdays and loved it. And he didn't teach you prosthetics, but he knew I wanted to get into that. And so eventually he called one. I was his TA for a year, and I would come and set up and all that. And he called one summer and he said, "Do you want a summer job?" He said, "They need somebody for the makeup show on the Universal tours." And so I went up right away, and he didn't know it, I don't think, but it kind of degenerated into just somebody who's selling their cosmetics. I had to pick a lady out of the audience, and they called it the makeup show, but it wasn't really a show. You pick a lady out of the audience, and you had 9 minutes to make her beautiful. And I'm going, okay, well, this is a job. But then they brought in Vern Langdon and put together a monster show where you pick two people out of the audience, made them into the Frankenstein monster and the Bride of Frankenstein.
That's fun.
And after we got the bugs out of that show, that was a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, I stayed doing that for like 3 or 4 years when I probably should have been trying to get down to the lower lot and into the makeup department there, which I did eventually.
So you go into the university and taking those classes was the opportunity for you to go towards Hollywood.
I mean, I still pushed my acting career, and there were some people that remembered me. Ron Underwood, who's an underrated director, in my opinion. I mean, he does everything so well. When I first got out here, and out of college, he was making like educational films, and he remembered me as an actor, and I was always, what is a community? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so he remembered me when he got into features, and you know, it was great. I got a couple of, you know, good little small parts, but the phone didn't ring for the acting. So, you know, and it did for the makeup effects and makeup. So,
Well,
and I came up through Universal when they still had a makeup department. There's a whole generation that never knew makeup departments at studios because they haven't existed for years. You know,
nice.
So it was good.
So what would you tell an up and coming FX artist to do to try to break into Hollywood nowadays?
It's difficult. It's just that more competitive. There are that many more people. You want to, drawing and painting is the background for corrective makeup for the, what lab people call ordinary makeup. It isn't ordinary at all, but so your drawing and painting is good. Sculpting is the basis of all prosthetics. So, yeah. You know, I mean, I remember when I was like 13, I got this book on makeup, which everything in it was entirely wrong. There wasn't a lot of stuff then, you know, out there. If you got a Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, you were in orbit. I mean, you know, pictures of monsters, you know.
Yeah.
So I talked to a kid up the street. I went and got the dental alginate, which you do the impression of the face, and I'm laying flat on the basement floor in St. Louis. You have basements in St. Louis, you know. And the thing is, you're not supposed to lie flat when you do it. That was totally wrong, but that was.
Oh, no.
And so I mixed the alginate, I had the plaster ready, and I said to the guy, I said, no, okay, as soon as I get the alginate on my face, start putting the plaster on. And the alginate hadn't set up yet, and he's putting the plaster on. So I'm holding really still because I'm waiting for the alginate. I don't want to destroy the you know, I want a neutral impression. And he freaked out. You know, he got plaster on me, and I was really quiet, and I wasn't moving. He ran up the street to tell his mother that he killed me. You know,
suffocated you.
Yeah, suffocated me. You know, and so that's, you know, I think we all started like that.
Yeah.
But today there is an awful lot online or available. You know, so you're not really trying to do experiments where you don't know what you're doing. But you keep doing it, keep sculpting.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the writing is something I've always loved doing.
Yes.
But, you know,
that's how we met.
Yeah, if you're a writer, you write every day. I mean,
yeah,
that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have that kind of discipline.
Just work the craft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I know the job varies drastically depending on the movie you're working on, but what does a visual effects artist actually do compared to what people think you do?
Well, it's all changed since digital, of course,
mm-hmm.
Because you do kind of sometimes makeup effects in conjunction with digital where you're just painting dots on somebody's face, or you put an appliance on and you don't even do the makeup, they do the rest. But
yeah.
Forgetting all of that, it happens a number of different ways. Sometimes somebody who's gaffing a television show, they get an episode where they need a monster or an age makeup or something like that, and they call you, and you either you have the actor or the actress come out and then you do an impression and sculpt what's needed, and then come in on the day and apply it. Sometimes you work on a movie where it's all makeup effects. I mean, I worked out of Rob Bottin's for a couple of pictures. He was very nice to me, helped me get my final days in for the local, because at that time they closed the makeup department at Universal. I didn't want to leave. It was a magical place, you know?
Yeah, the playground.
And then, Nick Marcelino, who was head of it, he called me down to the office one day because I was doing something in the lab, and he said, you're going to go up and work with Rob Bottin at Heartland Studios on the thing. Well, I didn't realize what he was really telling me was they were closing the department. When I was done on the thing, I came back and it was all gone.
Oh, man. So what are your thoughts on CGI, and do you think they've gone too far?
Yes, it's like anything else. it's the new kid on the block. It's a wonderful tool, and when it's used with artistic ability, it's great. But now it's become the catch-all. I mean, makeup effects, we had our heyday there about 25, 30 years ago, and then they probably overdid that too. There was that time where you get on a show and they all had to have bladders pulsating. Didn't matter what it was, you know, it had pulsating blood. Somebody started it, so everybody did it. I think there are two things that are happening with digital. Producers, directors, writers, they think that everything is done digitally, so they just wait and have digital do it, which is an awful lot for them to handle in some effects. Also, I think it's post-production, and it's all post-production.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being there and doing something that the actors involved with, the director can see, the DP can light or whatever. When it comes to post-production, a lot of your creative people that are really the core of the movie or the television show you're doing, they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Gets lost in translation.
Yeah, in Hollywood, there's always the possibility that Uncle Ned owns the digital place too. So the word goes there, but that happens in all areas of you know, endeavor.
Yeah, I am so glad to see Star Wars and the newer shows mix up the practical effects with the special effects. And there's a very nice middle ground where they both work for each other. And I'm sure it's so much better for the actors to see something in front of them.
Well, and it is cahoots. I mean, when they first started CSI and I was working, I had never done anything so closely in conjunction with computer-controlled cameras and digital effects. And they wouldn't have been able to do what they did if I would say, okay, I can make the interior and we'll go through the wound, but the backgrounds I don't have time to do, so they would do that digitally. And you know, I'd match the wound and then make a piece, and we'd go down to the computer control place and the computer would come into the piece, and it was a perfect match to what was on the actor. So yeah, for a while it was working really well there.
Yeah, some of those in CSI, especially when they would show the x-ray, like you would go into the person's body if you saw a gunshot, those were so great.
Well, we kind of started that stuff.
It's amazing.
I'm flattered. I'm watching Doc Blake. It's a Australian kind of a CSI show.
Okay.
And whoever is doing the makeup is doing a wonderful job. They certainly looked at some of the casualty stuff we were doing on CSI.
I'm sure.
And boy, I tell you, you know, the stuff had to be there. It really had to be big. You couldn't, you know, get away with something that was just kind of half natural looking and something, because they put a lot of light on the stuff for the close-ups, and then they brought in the autopsy light, and the autopsy light would burn the coloring and the anything that you did, unless you did it in you know, chalk or something, so it would show up.
Yeah, you got to adapt to all of that. So as a professional, what is something you see FX artists do on shows and movies that you wish they would stop doing?
Oh, there are a lot of things. I mean,
top three.
Well, I'll get out of effects very quickly and tell you the things that drive me nuts. But, you know, you can't blame the crafts usually. Makeup effects, makeup, props, wardrobe. What happens in television and movies is the producer saw, you know, a $200 million movie the night before, and they go, oh, I want it to look like that. The writer's writing the thing and going, oh, which episode is this? Oh, this is the episode where the mother does the murder. Okay, yeah, they had that on another show. Okay, well, this is our take on it. The problem with the duplication of stuff on television and movies doesn't start with the crafts. It starts at the top. So it's really hard to pick on somebody. And I've been in the situation where, well, I'll tell you a really old story, but we were doing a TV movie, and Mike McCracken, one of the best, if not the best artist I ever worked with in the industry. We're doing a monster called the Dead Eater, and it's a suit, and it's on the set. And he asked the director, oh, shoot.
We got a train.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a big train. But anyway, he asked the director, he says, I never heard Mike.
It's coming through.
Yeah. It was just work. Don't worry. No, He said, he asked the director, he said, well, you know, what color do we want the eyes? Because we're going in, you can see the lights coming through the thing too much, so we're going in to take it down. He goes, oh, I want red eyes. And I never heard Mike say anything against, you know, or any back talk to anyone. He goes, every monster you see on television has red eyes. You know, occasionally you're just told to do things and you do them because that's what they want. That's their money and it's their movie. But at the same time, the best ones. So what I'm saying is, back to the point, you can't really hold somebody responsible who's in the crafts for necessarily being the creative, making all the creative choices. And that's a lot of the times why you see the same stuff over and over. It's wonderful when you get a chance to design something or have input into the film.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the movie business in general? Always someone telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But
then when you do exactly what they want, they usually don't like it.
Oh, yes. That goes back to my tattoo world, too.
Yeah. So I'm sure it does. I have a lot of tattoo stories. Well, I tell you.
Oh, for putting them out in movies?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, we can't put them on permanently, obviously, so there are a lot of tricks. But, boy, there was a time Norman Levitt was gaffing, moonlighting, had me on, help on the show. I loved when I was working over there. But there was a big plot point on a tattoo, and it had the secret where the treasure was buried or something. You know?
Of course.
So a week before that episode comes up, you know, they say, well, we're going to have a tattoo. I said, okay, I'll design you something. And they said, well, no, we want the art department to do it, which is fine. The art department. And I kept calling every day. I'm going, have you had the transfer made? What we did in those days, you'd have the tattoo and then it was transferred to a special paper with an ink that you could then use alcohol and apply the tattoo. And if you had 6 days of shooting, you'd have 6 tattoos or whatever. Well, they didn't have it, you know. So at the last minute, I had to come up with a tattoo, which was fine. And I think Freddie Blau made up the tattoos, and we had 6 of them. Well, I was down to the 5th one before they even shot that scene. Oh. You have to deal with that all the time. And then the next day, I'm going, okay, they have to shoot it next. This is the last tattoo I had. And it was backwards. Somehow it had been printed backwards.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Put it on. And they wound up doing an insert later on.
Okay.
So we had time to get the tattoos. But you're always dealing with that kind of stuff. The day they want it, if you've got one of something, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. But tattoos are fun. I mean, I did for some reason, I was doing a lot of tattoos at one time.
Yeah. You think they would just hire a tattooed actor?
Yeah. And more time is spent by the makeup artist on the show covering tattoos today.
Yeah.
Than actually applying tattoos. So many performers have tattoos. You would think they would think to themselves that hurts their versatility a little bit.
It does.
And suddenly you're covering up this stuff. And there's a lot of things we use today that we didn't have years ago. But still, it takes a lot of time, and there's always coming off on the wardrobe a little bit.
Yeah. No, it is tough, and I've had to deal with that with a couple of actors out here. This question is a little bit more for me. What's the trick to making good blood? Oh,
well, there's a lot of things involved. And they make all different kinds of blood. As a matter of fact, they make so many different kinds of blood. I'm kind of worried about our society that worries about the color of blood on the screen. I can send you a formula. There's a lot of different.
Oh, yeah.
We got away from the ones that have sugar in them because they stain and the flies get on there, and usually you don't want them there. But I'll send you a couple of different formulas. Kenny Diaz makes a really good, I've always recommended his blood stuff. He's an old colleague. It's KD 151 is the name of the thing. I always tell this story, he hates it, but he named that because that was the rum he drank, 151. But,
okay.
He doesn't do that anymore. But he makes an excellent blood. There are a lot of lines out there. The thing is, there was a great seminar a couple of years ago put on by the local for costumes and wardrobe about blood. And the effects guy came, special effects, which usually you're doing the rig and the pumping and all that. although sometimes I wound up doing it. The makeup artist puts on the appliance, you put the thing under and the whole thing. And, you know, he said something that I just stood up and applauded. Blood is, we were familiar with blood. We know the color of it. We've all been cut. We all know. But what you're doing on screen is sometimes very, very different. And it reads differently. So you've got to be aware with that in everything you do. First of all, it's only one eye. But he said, he asked a question of the audience. It's great. He said, okay, it's about 6 o'clock in the wintertime. We're in an alleyway. It's dark. It's a film noir thing. The guy gets shot and he's lying in the alleyway, bleeding to death. What kind of blood do you use? And he said, the brightest blood you've got so that it'll read. You know, I mean,
yeah.
So there are always the technical factors there. And then there are different kinds of them.
Yeah. I did not think about that. If it's cold, you know, your blood's going to thicken up or.
Thicken up, yeah. Also, one of the things that, boy, I had a big argument with the tech advisor. It was really tense. You know, I'm putting blood on, and in CSI, they wanted everything perfect. These were blood stains. Blood dries brown, a brownish color. It doesn't say red. I'm going, give it 10 minutes. It turns brown.
Yeah.
She came back later and she goes, oh, that's great. That's great. But yeah, when you're in a show like that, you got to make sure, you know, the plot points are right.
Yeah.
You know, if the only thing that's wrong with a movie or television show is the blood color, it's okay.
Yes. It still irks me when I see blood from the 70s sometimes, where it's like that really unnatural red. But
you know, the worst thing that happens today is you see 3 different colors of blood, because wardrobe's putting on one blood, makeup effects is putting on another blood, and the prop people are putting on another blood, or the set decorators are putting on another blood.
And then
so
we
the
got
guy's lying there, and he's got one color of blood on him, and one color, different color on the floor, and the different color on the shirt. You know?
Oh man. And then CGI comes in and adds some more.
Yes. Yeah.
So your IMDb is very impressive. You worked on, I mean, everything from Tom Cruise's first movie, Legend, Mel Brooks' Spaceballs, The Incredible Hulk live action show with Lou Ferrigno, Men in Black, CSIs. I mean,
Men in Black, I didn't do too much. I was second.
I mean, still, it's on your IMDb. The list is very impressive. Can you tell me one of your favorite sets you've worked on and why?
Sets,
or like movies or shows, or one of your favorite. As an artist?
Well, CSI always has a special place because I won my Emmy for that. And
congratulations.
And when we first started out, they didn't know what could be done and what couldn't, and they really let me have my way and most of the time, and I was giving them like stuff. I spoiled them, but you know. Anything that I loved working at Universal in the lab. This is before your generation, but you didn't always know what you were making in the lab at Universal where it would go. You make something for Buck Rogers or something like that. But to me, it was a magic place. It didn't even have air conditioning. You're trying to run foam latex without air conditioning is like trying to, you know, do the Gettysburg Address on the head of a pin or something. But it was a magical place. All of the life masks of all the stars were hanging up. And every day I went in there to work, I thought I was a part of history. You'd find, like they were doing a Munsters movie, and we'd find the molds from the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, or something that said, you know, Rick's hands on it. And that was Riku Browning's hands from the creature from the Black Lagoon.
That's
One day
amazing.
we're cleaning up there. Werner Kepler, who's still with us, he taught really everybody. I mean, he deserves a special place, special award. But the one thing about Werner was, you know, it was all kind of the same to him. One star was like another. We're cleaning up the lab one day, and I find this old life mask, and it was really crudely done. And I looked at it, and I'm going, this is Buster Keaton.
Oh, wow.
Buster Keaton. And we're saying, oh, yeah, Buster Keaton. Yeah. And, but it was a place like that.
Those are national treasures right there.
Yeah. Well, and of course, when I went to work on The Thing, which I had a great time on that too.
Oh,
I
yes,
came
The
back, they
Thing.
closed the department. All the stuff was gone. Either threw it away or,
What?
yeah. I mean, today all that stuff would be, I mean, I had a couple of things just because I had worked on things. Or Nick Marcelline, I go, Nick, that casting of Terry Thomas that Dick Smith did for The Mad World, it's just perfect. He's one of my favorites. Can I make a copy of that? And Nick Marcelline, no. He was the master of the pause. It made you really nervous. It's a kind of an executive thing. He would just wait. Well, and Nick, don't worry about it. I would just wonder if and he would talk and go, well, okay, yeah, fine. Just wait to clock out and wait till everybody else is gone. I know you'll clean up your mess. So I did get a few things, but I mean, I don't even want to think about what they threw away.
They could have made a killing on eBay.
Well,
It's no eBay.
It is heritage too. I mean,
Yeah.
Bob Burns and Kathy Burns were the first people, I think, to realize the art that went into the creation of makeup and props and stuff in movies. And Bob Burns' collection, and I mean, they gave up their house to their collection all these years, but they were the first to say, don't throw that creature from the Black Lagoon suit away.
Yeah.
There's art in there. Well, movies is a business, and they go, well, the movie's done. We got to get rid of it. Today,
that's a shame. So you worked on The Thing. Did you go down to where was it shot? I don't want to say Antarctica, but it was somewhere really cold.
It was British Columbia. They shot it, but none of the makeup effects. I'm trying to think who did the makeup. I was a good makeup artist, but they shot the entire movie without any of the effects, and then set up. Rob had set up the effects shop at Heartland Studios, and they duplicated the sets. And there'll never be another movie like it. We'd never think about doing this.
This is one of my favorites.
Well, it is mine too. If you worked on it, sometimes you're a little disappointed when you see the film, no matter what the film is. But John Carpenter and Rob would bring back actors if they needed it. If they came up with a new idea on how to do something, they'd bring the actors back and we'd shoot it. They were trying out all the different ideas that had never been tried before. I think Rob had been saving them up. Now, we shot an awful lot of effects that weren't used. And I kind of knew that, all this can't be in the film because we had 2 hours of effects.
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids that were working for the first time in their first movie, when we saw the thing premiered, they go, where's the such and such? And where's the such? But
editing.
Yeah. And they couldn't cut some of the stuff in probably, or didn't want to go to the trouble. Also, there was some wonderful stop motion. Randy Cook and Jim Apparel did some wonderful stop motion, which kind of explains some of the things in the second half that didn't make it in. But it is a wonderful film. I think I have to give the John Goodwin opinion, and I hope Rob. No, I'm not saying anything I never said to Rob, but the first half of the film is like nothing you've ever seen in the movies or is ever going to see again. The second half of the film, to me, strays from paying off all the things that are set up in the first half. Yeah. Now we're talking writing, but it got a little ambivalent. And part of that is because it's a short novelette it's adapted from. But still, it was wonderful to be on it. And I got my days to get into the union on it. And
that's great.
Wonderful stories about it.
Yeah. I heard it was one of the only movies that had no females on set, in front, behind, nowhere.
We had some gals working in.
Okay, well then I'm going to have to tell the internet that was wrong.
It's terrible now. Well, I know one person that was there, having a senior moment. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
She was one of the great painters of all time.
Really?
I mean, taught us all how to paint stuff for the movies. Oh gosh,
it'll come to you later on in the day when you're making a sandwich.
So Margaret Prentice.
Margaret Prentice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Margaret is like such a talent. I think she's still working. She taught stipple color, and she knew exactly what read on camera. I mean, we all learned, how to do stuff from her.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. What about one of your most terrible experiences on a movie or show? I mean, you don't have to name it.
I don't even have to think the worst one. I can tell you the worst. It doesn't sound like much, but it's one of those days from hell.
Yeah.
I had been called in, Pete Otterbelli, a wonderful makeup artist. They were in the middle of a shoot, and they'd lost their makeup artist. I didn't know what that meant. And I wasn't on a show at the time. And it was a TV movie, and Jason Robards started. And I thought, oh my God, I'll be making a Jason Robards. And he was great.
Mm-hmm.
He was everything you'd want him to be and more. And we hit it off right away. He'd had a car accident, and his teeth had come through the upper lip and made a little mark, and he was self-conscious about that. And he said, whatever, every makeup artist puts something on there, and it doesn't stay but 10 minutes because I'm talking too much or something. And I said, well, wait a minute. And I went and got some packs out of my effects case that matched his base makeup. And I just put a little bit of packs over there, put the base makeup over there. He came back and he said, oh, that was wonderful. The whole thing. Anyway, he's leaving the trailer, and he says, have you made up Elaine yet? And it's Elaine Stritch, and she was a character actress by then. I never saw her act in New York. She was like a big, entertainer, a New York entertainer, and she'd done movies. I said no. He says, well, come to my trailer later and tell me how it goes.
Oh, no.
So, because I could tell he wanted me to stay on the show, and he didn't want me to leave because of Elaine. So Elaine Stritch came, and I guess she was drinking in those days, but you can't, some people, that drink, you can't tell they're really drunk,
Yeah.
And dipping in the alcohol. And she was a wonderful performer. I was a fan. And she came in the hair side of the trailer, and the hair person just left. She did her own hair, and so I thought, oh gosh, what am I in for? She sits in the chair. She takes this makeup that she bought at a drugstore in England, and that's her base. And I'm going, oh, this is, so I put it down, and I'm really working it hard because you have to warm that stuff up. And I really did a good job on the base. It wasn't really appropriate for movies, but you can't tell somebody like that. So then I'm doing her eyeshadow. Not something, I came in when you had to learn how to do it all, and you do monsters for 3 months. You want to make up some beautiful women, That's fun.
Yeah, change it up.
Yeah, change it up. And so she goes, oh, you have more blue eyeshadow on this than this one. And I put so little on that you could hardly see it at all. But then she's putting me through the ropes. And I couldn't do anything to make her happy. And she's starting to yell and this, that, and that. I never, ever had anything like that happen to me. So finally, she leaves the trailer. Okay, I'll do it. They tell me later that she had punched out 2 other makeup artists before they brought me in.
Oh my gosh. They should at least told you to duck or be ready to duck.
Yeah, I know, but they didn't. I guess they thought I'd leave before it happened. Anyway, so later on, I think it was the next day, they're shooting a close-up of 3 actors or whatever at the table. And I'm watching her because watching what's being filmed is important as doing the makeup. That's getting lost. And I look in the back, and she's left a curler in the back of her hair. Now, it never would have shown on screen. But I went up to her and I said, Elaine, is that curler a character touch? It's very funny. She goes, oh my gosh, like this, and pulls it out. I said, I didn't know whether it's character touch where you wanted that there. No, I missed it. And from then on, I couldn't get rid of her.
Oh, no. In a good way?
In a good way.
Okay.
Am I okay? Do I look all right? Yeah, I'm going, yes. Yeah, you look fine. The difference, she knew that I was watching to make sure.
Yeah. And she probably didn't get that many nice people if she was going around punching everybody.
Well, I learned later she evidently was having a bad time. And, you know, you see people early in the morning, and particularly when you're gluing appliances on or doing prosthetics, it really takes a dedicated actor. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm going to tell you other stories too, but somebody will say they did prosthetics, they don't mind prosthetics to get the part. All actors are going to say anything to get a part. I understand perfectly.
Yeah.
And they come in and they go, oh, will you glue that on? You know?
Yeah, I have to sit there for 5 hours?
Yeah, right.
So what is a must-have tool for any special effects or makeup artists that they should have in their arsenal? What is like that one thing that you cannot live without?
Oh, that's a really good question. There's so much stuff. I remember they told us in film school, they said the problem with getting into one of the crafts, whether it's makeup or whether it's camera, you have to spend all this money to get all the equipment, and you're not working yet in the industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot you need. I'll tell you, Chris Wallace opened my eyes to sculpting, different kind of sculpting in wet clay, brushes for applying makeup, brushes for sculpting in clay. Brushes are very important. A very famous makeup artist, V. Neal, sells brushes now of all kinds. I see makeup being done without any brushes at all other than a powder brush, which it is a little different, but I think, you know, when I think of makeup, I think of brushes.
Good set of brushes, which is pretty expensive sometimes.
The finer sable brushes for the makeup. And I mean, Chris was showing me really cheap brushes to use for sculpting, which I thought was great, but you know, it's hard to find them sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've already kind of talked about this, but what is your favorite special effects movie or artist?
Well, Dick Smith and Bill Tuttle were, I mean, and John Chambers, the big three. Now, I didn't get to do a movie with John Chambers. I would go over to his house. And Bill showed me so much, and his brother, Tom Tuttle, when Bill was away one year, showed me a lot. He was like Dick Van Dyke's personal makeup artist. Okay. But Dick Smith, I remember writing letters to. He would always answer your letters, maybe like 6 months later. You know, even after I knew most of the stuff, you know, I wish I'd had it earlier. He had a course that you could take, and I paid to do that and just get the literature, you know, because I might have had some gaps in what he'd already sent me. But he's probably the most famous all-around makeup artist. I mean, you know, he's remembered for all the prosthetics, but he did it all. He was a makeup artist.
Yeah. And it was amazing back then because they were making up everything. You had to make it up. There was nobody already made it.
I'll never forget when I was a kid, we took a family vacation and we did the Universal tours. And it's odd that I wound up working there years later, but made an impression, I guess. But the first actor I ever saw walk off of a soundstage was Jack Cassidy. He was probably doing some, you know, movie of the week at Universal or something. And I looked at him, I thought he was playing an Indian. You know, the makeup was so brightly orange and red. And of course, you know, it didn't look that way on film because they used all the lights then. And if you didn't bring up the flesh tone like that, like I have a natural, like, look at the red here. Well, we can't see that around the
but yeah, pinkish, white.
Yeah. I look like I'm being strangled. See, that's a really good look for when I came in the movies. They use bounce lighting now. But still, if you're out at the beach and they've got a 9 light on or something, you've got to know to bring that color up. Otherwise, you know, people look like white slugs on camera.
Yeah.
Not quite that bad now, but I think they've gone too much the other way. I'll even see prosthetic guys that do the wonderful, and gals, and do wonderful sculptures, make the appliances, apply them, no edges, but they don't get enough color on them, and they just go flat. You need more color on a piece of rubber than you do on the face just to match. And silicone is extremely popular now. It's a wonderful material, but just like digital, they tend to think, okay, now we use silicone, and silicone can be too heavy for certain appliances. I mean, where the face begins to sag because you have to use it solid.
Yeah,
you can't whip it because it loses its translucency. And the thing about silicone, is when it looks great, it's perfect. But if there's something wrong or a lighting setup isn't right, or they're seeing it at a strange angle, you can't really change much with silicone. If you're using rubber, you could come in and add to it or take away from it or whatever. But the color is either in the silicone or it isn't. There with some parameters. There's the tattoo colors and all that, which is silicone is great, you know, but it's another tool. You're always looking for the appropriate one. You know, if digital's appropriate, use digital, but don't use it.
Don't use it for don't throw it at everything.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much at the end here, and I just want to ask you this is a new thing where I ask people something that has nothing to do with anything. If you could pick anyone to play you in a movie, who would it be?
Oh, Vincent Price is gone, unfortunately.
Perfect.
Vincent Price.
There we go. I see it.
You can't see this on camera, but I'll explain. I was at a matinee of 3 Edgar Allan Poe Vincent Price films, and I learned how to raise that eyebrow, you see, and you can't, I mean.
There we go, like this?
But it's the wrong eyebrow. It was on film. He was raising the other eyebrow, which I can't do, you know.
How come we can't raise the other eyebrow? Because I could raise my right one. I can't raise the other one.
I don't know. It's probably left or right-handed thing or something. Who knows? That's interesting. I never knew that. No, today, I don't know. Who knows?
Well, Vincent Price is amazing. That's perfect.
Vincent Price. At the Growlings, I used to do Princeton Vice.
That's great. Well, John, I just want to thank you again for coming on to the show, Sam of All Trades. It was a pleasure and an honor to speak with you, and I'd love to have you on again. I know you have a lot of stories I'd love to hear. One of my favorite movies, Tremors, you were on as an actor. You know, real small, real bit part. But I
remember the fellow Ron Underwood directed that, the guy I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to plug him, but he is such a good director that he has not. I think when you do one thing really well, you get famous for it. You do everything really well, and they don't know who you are.
That's really true. Actually, that's weird. I didn't even think about it that way. But Tremors, I saw on your IMDb, and I had to find you on that, and I was like, oh, okay, because I love that movie. What's that?
Yeah, we'll save it for another one.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to have you on again, and yeah, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.
Well, this is my first podcast. I was a virgin as far as podcasting, and it was wonderful.
I hope we were nice and gentle, and hope to have you on again in the future, man. You take care.
Thank you so much.